Good morning, dear students. How are you all? Today, let us understand about the pressure belts of the world. We all know that the earth is surrounded by atmosphere. The atmosphere has weight, so it exerts a pressure on the surface of the earth. And this pressure exerted by the atmosphere on the earth is called atmospheric pressure. Now let us understand the relationship between atmospheric pressure and temperature. Atmospheric pressure, which is measured with the help of barometer, it is an instrument to measure atmospheric pressure. So, if the temperature will be high at a place, then the atmospheric pressure will be low, and if the temperature will be low at a place, that means the atmospheric pressure will be high. For example, the places which are near equator, there the temperature is high, that means their atmospheric pressure will be low, and the places which are away from equator, there the temperature is low, so at those places atmospheric pressure would be high. Now this variation in the atmospheric pressure is responsible for horizontal movement of air called wind and vertical movement of air called current. Because there is a difference in the atmospheric pressure of different places on the earth, therefore the air sometimes it moves horizontally and sometimes vertically. So what is wind? Wind is actually the horizontal movement of air, and the vertical movement of air is called current. And wind and current together they cause circulation of air in the atmosphere. Now let us understand the factors which affect atmospheric pressure. See, the first one, they have given altitude. Places at great heights experience less atmospheric pressure than places at sea level. The places which would be at a great height, those places would have less atmospheric pressure. What's the reason? They may ask you, this is important, that why places at great heights experience less atmospheric pressure than places at sea level? So the answer is that because there is greater amount of air pushing down on the surface at sea level than at a higher altitude. What happens? See, because at sea level, above the sea level, there is more atmosphere in comparison to a place which is at a certain height. So, the place which would be at some height, it would have low atmospheric pressure in comparison to the place which is at sea level. So, atmospheric pressure decreases as altitude increases. The second factor is temperature. When the temperature of a place increases, what happens? When of a place the temperature rises, the air will get heated, and when the air will get heated, it will expand. The air expands on heating, and when it expands, its density becomes low, so it becomes lighter and it rises. So this leads to a decrease in air pressure, atmospheric pressure in the area. And when the temperature falls, if the temperature is falling, that means the air is getting colder, so the air will contract. Instead of expanding, now it will contract and it will descend downwards. It will go to lower position, and this leads to an increase in air pressure, because now the air is descending downwards, so this increases the air pressure. Thus, air pressure decreases with an increase in temperature. So here an important question is that why areas close to the equator generally have low air pressure. So this question is also very important. Here you can see the relationship between temperature and atmospheric pressure. Both are inversely proportional to each other. If temperature would be high, atmospheric pressure would be low, and if temperature will be low, atmospheric pressure will be high. Now here you see, if altitude increases, atmospheric pressure decreases. Now one fact also you all should know, that moist air exerts less pressure than dry air. Why so? Because the molecules of water vapor, that is H2O, it has less mass than the other gases present in atmosphere. The other gases like nitrogen, oxygen. So that's why moist air exerts less pressure than dry air. Now try to understand this concept as well, that Earth rotates on its axis. You all know that Earth rotates on its axis. Therefore, in the equatorial regions, air is pulled outwards, and because air is pulled outwards, so in the equatorial regions, low atmospheric pressure is experienced. Whereas in the polar areas, that is near the poles, air is pulled inwards. So there the atmospheric pressure is high. There are four main pressure belts of the world: equatorial low pressure belt, then subtropical high pressure belts, subpolar low pressure belts, and polar high pressure belts. Now here you see, the first one is low pressure belt, the next one is high pressure belt, then the next one is again low pressure belts, and the next to it, the last one is again high pressure belt. So low, high, low, high. In your books also, on page number 37, you can see the diagram of the pressure belts on the surface of the earth. You can see at the center there is equator, equatorial region. So there is LP written. LP means low pressure area is there. Then away from it, see Tropic of Cancer, you can see 23.5 degree north, and Tropic of Capricorn 23.5 degree south. So away from Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, you can see in brown color they have marked subtropical high pressure belt. So that experiences high pressure. Then away from subtropical high pressure belts in both the hemispheres, you can see subpolar low pressure belt. In both the hemispheres you can see that it is colored with yellow. So that is the low pressure belt, and again after it towards the poles you will see polar high pressure belt in both the hemispheres. which is again colored in brown. So here you will see low pressure. This equatorial belt is low pressure belt, then subtropical is high pressure, then subpolar is low pressure, and polar is high pressure. So it is just changing like low pressure, high pressure, low pressure, high pressure. Let us now understand about the equatorial belt of low pressure. This belt extends up to about 5 degrees of latitude north and south of the equator. The areas near the equator receive a large amount of insolation all the year round, causing high temperature. What is the meaning of insolation? Insolation means incoming solar radiation. The atmospheric pressure here is low because it gets high temperature. Air becomes less dense due to rapid terrestrial radiation. High moisture content in the air also contribute to the low pressure in this belt. Now what's the meaning of terrestrial radiation? See the sun's energy. It is absorbed by the surface of the earth, and then the surface of the earth radiates it back into the space. So that is called terrestrial radiation. Now we will understand about the next belt, subtropical high pressure belts. These belts are found on both sides of the equator, one near the Tropic of Cancer in the northern hemisphere